It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as a new champion has been crowned in AEW. We have a huge update on the status of AEW's EVP'S, and AEW have signed 2 former WWE stars. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... Yesterday, before AEW Dynamite from the hometown of Brodie Lee, the Exalted One's family announced the formation of a charity in his honor. The Jon Huber Foundation has set out a goal to provide support to people in creative fields who have not taken the next step in their career because of family obligations. Brodie's wife Amanda would be quoted in a statement as saying, "Jon almost gave up on his dream of wrestling because of his family, but he got the call to move up to WWE while we were in the hospital with our first child. I can't think of a better way of honoring his commitment to family and his career than to help others who are facing the same dilemma." Beginning in 2022, the foundation will select a group of creative individuals to support with resources, connections, practical skills, and direct funding. The chosen individuals will then meet throughout the year to learn from experts in areas including business planning, artist management, public relations, brand management, finances, and IP law. This is in an attempt to help them provide for their families whilst also helping them pursue their dreams. Brodie's brother Chris also added, "Many artists and wrestlers are never taught how to manage their finances, investments, and assets in a way to make sure their family is secure. Like our father, Jon always wanted to make sure he was making decisions that were right not only for his career, but also for his family." The foundation will announce its first round of applications in early 2022, with more information being available at jonhuberlegacyfoundation.org. And let's move on to AEW Dynamite, as MJF threatened to leave AEW and jump to WWE if he didn't get his own way, making reference to WWE's Senior Vice President Bruce Pritchard, who Friedman worked with during his time in Major League Wrestling. MJF called himself the past, present, and future of AEW and stated he deserves to be AEW World Champion. He'd address AEW President Tony Khan, making reference to another WWE employee, Chief Revenue Officer Nick Khan, and he said, "Out of all the Khans in pro wrestling, you're easily in my top 2. However, if you don't start giving me opportunities I deserve, I have other friends from back in the day. I have an old friend from my MLW days and his name is Bruce Pritchard, and I got Brucey on speed dial." MJF would reference what he described as the 4 pillars of AEW, that being himself, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Jungle Boy, all of which have been with the promotion since the start and are widely regarded as future main eventers. He would list off his own accolades, including being the first match at All In, the first match in AEW history, the youngest athlete to main event an AEW pay-per-view, as well as being the holder of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He'd then be interrupted by Darby Allin before MJF spoke about why Darby is straight edge. He'd make reference to a car crash Darby was involved in as a child whilst being driven by his drunken uncle who died in the collision. Allin would then tell MJF that he won't get in his head before MJF left the ring, seemingly accepting that as a challenge. This seems to be setting up the first singles match between the two in AEW, with them having met twice in one-on-one action outside of the promotion, each with 1 victory to their name. Next up, last night's AEW Dynamite was main evented by an AEW TNT Championship match, with the champion Miro defending against Sammy Guevara. In a match that lasted close to 14 minutes, Guevara would pick up the win following a distraction from his best friend Fuego del Sol, which allowed Sammy to hit the champion with a knee strike, which sent Miro into the exposed turnbuckle, followed by a tornado DDT, a GTH, and finally the 360 senton to finish him off. Despite the loss, the formerly undefeated Miro was protected with the finish, with Sammy not only needing the exposed turnbuckle, as well as needing him to hit everything that he had to get the win. After the show went off the air, Sammy would dedicate his win to the late Brodie Lee, whom the show was dedicated to, and he would tell the crowd, "I will never be able to fill the shoes that you left behind. I mean, you had some big ass feet, but I'm gonna do my damnedest and work as hard as I can and carry this title with pride. No offense to Kenny's belt, but this is the greatest title in professional wrestling." God's former favorite champion Miro would take to Twitter to post his reaction to his loss, and he would say, "Me and my God are going to talk." His wife CJ Perry would also give her thoughts, and she posted, "You'll always be my favorite champion." Guevara's first challenger has already been announced for next week, but we'll get to that a little bit later on in the video. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. Next, let's go to a report from Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net, who has provided an update on the status of AEW's executive vice presidents. At the launch of All Elite Wrestling, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, all who were members of the Elite at the time, were handed the roles of EVPs in the company, all with a hand on the creative side of the television product. According to the update, creative has essentially completely been taken away from the EVPs, as basically everything now goes through Tony Khan. AEW talents are allowed and encouraged to pitch ideas and give suggestions, but creative is, quote, absolutely Tony Khan's prerogative now. At one point, Cody Rhodes is said to have been the only EVP to regularly attend office meetings, but his role and input with creative has diminished. Matt Jackson is said to be now assisting his wife Dana with the merchandise side of things, whilst his brother Nick is focused on the handling of the Being the Elite YouTube show. As for Kenny, his main focus is now to be hands-on with the AEW Games department, as well as helping out put together the women's matches. A source was quoted to have told Haynes, basically, they are EVPs in name only in 2021. They no longer have final say in creative or talent hiring, any of them. TK pulled back on the reins and took that power away from all. The source also revealed that Cody Rhodes, as previously rumored, no longer has a close relationship with his former Elite stablemates, with the quote saying, Cody doesn't really have much of a relationship with any of the EVPs anymore. The others are still great friends, but Cody is very much on the outside looking in. Friction between Cody and the Elite has been reported on before, with this story further backing it up. This was even referenced by Cody himself on television during his faux retirement speech after his first loss to Malachi Black on Dynamite. I've said in the past that having 5 EVPs could be a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth, with AEW now heading in a single-minded focus, that being with Tony Khan being the sole director of creative. A quote from Khan himself seems to back this report up, with him stating in a recent interview with the Associated Press earlier this month, I found the company has gotten stronger the more I take on, and I think the fans would agree with that. The really hardcore fans would actually really agree with that. The people who know the more hands-on I got about everything, the company has gotten a lot stronger. Clearly, Khan's vision has been working, with AEW's booking vastly improving as of late. That could be a result of the EVPs losing creative power, or simply Tony Khan getting better with experience. We've seen a lot less interferences, jump starts, and post-match beatdowns, with even AEW's biggest critics admitting that the shows have gotten better over the past few months. We're coming off the back of arguably the best AEW pay-per-view of all time, that being All Out, as well as arguably the best Dynamite of all time, that being Grand Slam, and it seems that this new creative direction could have a hand in that. And finally, speaking of AEW, they have signed 2 new wrestlers to the roster, all who were recently released by WWE. First off, a vignette aired on last night's Dynamite revealing that Lio Rush has signed with the promotion, which was confirmed on Twitter by a Lio Rush is All Elite graphic on the official Twitter account. Rush introduced his new gimmick where he portrays a businessman that is involved with leverage investing. Shots of flashy cars and big cities such as New York and Dubai played over the top of his promo as he discussed his profits in the business world. This is in fact not the first time we've seen Rush in AEW, as earlier this year at Double or Nothing in May he entered the Casino Battle Royale as the Joker entrant, before almost immediately announcing his retirement from professional wrestling due to health issues. At the time he stated he would first finish his obligations in New Japan, but has seemingly changed his mind as he looks to continue his wrestling career. And the second signing to AEW sees the recently released Bobby Fish join the company, who is a former member of Adam Cole's Undisputed Era in NXT. Fish would take to Twitter to challenge the aforementioned new AEW TNT champion Sammy Guevara, and he would write, I'd like to congratulate the new TNT champion Sammy Guevara and be the first to challenge him for that title, ready to walk through the forbidden door. Guevara then accepted the challenge, with the match set to take place next Wednesday on the anniversary edition of AEW Dynamite. Fish is also scheduled to appear in the upcoming MLW Opera Cup, but it's currently unknown if he will stay in Major League Wrestling going forward. This will be Fish's first ever appearance in All Elite Wrestling, and he brings a wealth of experience to the company, with him being an 18-year veteran of the sport, with most of his career being spent in Pro Wrestling Noah, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Pro-Wrestling. According to PW Insider, the appearance will not be a one-off, suggesting he has signed on for a number of matches. And before you go, make sure you check out my video where I discuss 10 perfect candidates to be members of the Elite, including Bobby Fish.